Hello, Dr. Teh. This is my presentation for the second milestone of data mining assignment. My name is Ammar Alyousfi. In this stage, we did the following. We crawled data from more sources to create multiple views, and we, we stored the crawled data in MySQL database, and then we transferred the data to Hive. So we crawled the data from multiple sources. Uh, from Twitter, we crawled tweets from Twitter, and we crawled data about quarterly financial reports, and also we crawled the news articles and headlines. We crawled also stock indices data. Also, we continued crawling uh, data about KLSE stock prices. We started crawling this data in the first milestone. For Twitter, we crawled data from Twitter using Twitter API. We created a developer account so we can use the API, and we crawled the tweets for all KLSE companies, more than 1,800 companies. So this is Twitter. This is our app that we created to be able to crawl the data. And here is the script, the Python script that we wrote to crawl the data. We Here we import Twitter library, which is a Python library that allows us to connect to Twitter API and retrieve data. Makes it easier for us. We also used other libraries like Pandas, OS, and other libraries. First, we connect to Twitter API using our secret keys and access tokens. Then we create a Pandas data frame to store the data here. Then we read the company names from a text file, so we can search for these company names in the tweets. And here is the function that we defined to crawl the data. So at the beginning, we removed some parts of the company name. For example, this is the company name as listed on the website. But we don't think that many people will use this full name in their tweet. So we used regular expressions to remove some parts. So this name here becomes like this. So we used regular expressions here to remove these parts. And then for each company name, we do the following. We use the Twitter library to search for tweets. The search term is the company name, and we search for tweets since a certain date until certain date. We define the dates here, start and end. Of course, we crawl data for more than one day, but this is the last time we crawled the data. So we search for tweets that contain the company name, and we get the results, the tweets. Then for each tweet of these tweets, we get the information that we want, like the text of the tweet, how many people liked the tweet, and the creation date of the tweet, hashtags, etc. Many information. And then we store the tweet information in our data frame. We repeat this process for all companies. Search for tweets and then uh, store relevant tweets. And finally, we save our data frame. Here is the output data frame. Here the company full name, the tweet text. We crawled many tweets, more than 15,000 tweets. Then the favorite count created at hashtags and etc. So that was for Twitter. Also, we crawled data about quarterly financial reports. We crawled this data for all KLSE companies listed on malaysiastock.biz website. We crawled data since 2016. So data about 12 quarters for each company. Here is the website. For example, if we choose one company, here we find the quarter report history. For each year for reports, we crawled this data for each company. And here is the Python script we used. So the companies are listed in alphabetical lists. For example, the letter B, here are the companies that start with letter B. So we loop through all letters, we download the page, then we parse it using Beautiful Soup, then we get all the links in the page, and then for each link which represent a company page, we download the page and then we find the information that we want, the financial report information using regular expressions also, and we store them in a text file. So here is the output of the script. We get the name, the date, the name of the company, the date, the financial year, the financial quarter, the revenue, and other relevant data. Next, we crawled news data. Uh, we used we crawled the news from the Star website. We crawled almost all business news available on the website. Here is the Star website, the business news. There are 25 pages. We crawled almost all of them. And here is the script we used. So here we loop through the pages, the news pages. Then for each page, here are the IDs, the CSS IDs of the news elements. So for each news page, we download the page and parse it. Then we get the links of news articles, and then for each article, we download its page and we parse it also. Then we get the information that we want. For example, here we get the category, the date of the article, and the time, and the text of the article. And previously, here we got the headline of the article. In this loop here, we make sure that we don't store duplicate news. Then we store the results in a CSV file. Then stock indices. We crawl data from investing.com website data about Malaysian indices. We did this several times a day. This is the website. Here we find Malaysian indices, for example KLCI. We find the price information here also. And here is the Python code that we used to crawl the indices data. As usual, we download the page, we parse it, and then we get the information that we want for each of the indices: KLCI, Malaysia ACE, etc. Then we store the data in a CSV file. We get data about the prices, and we get the time and date also. Okay. We store each time we crawl the data, we store it in separate file. This is for each index. For each index, here are the information. And finally, we continued crawling KLSE stock prices. We started this process in the first milestone. So we continued crawling data for more than 1,800 companies from two websites, the Star and MalaysiaStock.biz. We are crawling 6 times a day using scheduled tasks on Amazon Web Services server. And so far we have around 400,000 rows of data about KLSE stock prices. Then the next part of this milestone, storing data in MySQL database. We created a database, a MySQL database, and we stored the data of each source in a separate table. We used the MySQL community server to install a database server on our machine. Then we used also an application called MySQL Workbench to manage and view the dataset. So the steps we followed are: first, we installed MySQL community server and MySQL Workbench. Then we created a database. Then we created a table in the database for each data source. Then we wrote Python scripts to store the crawled data in the database. So we installed MySQL. Here we can see the databases on our device. Here is the one we used to store our data, and here we can see the SQL commands that we used. First, we used this command to create the database data mining assignment. Then we used these commands to create tables. For example, this table for stock prices from the Star website. We defined the fields: open price, high price, company symbol, all data. Another table for Malaysia stock-based data. Another table for quarterly reports. Another table for tweets, and so on. And here is MySQL Workbench. Here is our data set. Here is our database. And here we can see our tables. But first, let us see the scripts that we used to store data in the database. So for each data source, we wrote a Python script to store the crawled data into a MySQL table. So for Twitter, for example, this script takes the crawled tweets, then store them in a table in the database. Here we import by MySQL library, which we use to connect to the database and to execute SQL code. First, we connect to the database. Then, we read the crawled data, which we previously stored as CSV file. Then, we iterate through the data. For each item in the data, in this case for each tweet, we get the information. Sometimes we need to apply extra operations to make the data suitable for the MySQL database, and then we store the tweet in the database table. Here we execute this SQL command, insert into tweets table these values, and then we commit. And we repeat this for all tweets in the CSV file. Here is the script for the quarterly reports. The same idea, we connect to the database, we read the crawled data, and then we write them to the database. And here is for the star news, and here for the stock indices, and here for the stock prices from the star website, and here the stock prices from Malaysia stock-based website. So by running the scripts, we fill our MySQL tables. So for example, if we look at the star data, which is stock prices, here we can see the data in MySQL table, and here it shows us the command used to retrieve this data. Select star from data mining assignment the star data, and we also can see information about the table. We have in this table more than 200,000 rows, and here is, for example, the quarterly data. Here are the tweets, and so on for the rest of the tables. And finally, the final part, we transfer data from our MySQL database to Hive. We followed the following steps. First, we installed Linux Ubuntu using VirtualBox. Then we installed Hadoop and configured it. Then installed the Hive and configured it, since Hive depends on Hadoop. Then we exported data from MySQL database as CSV files. We exported each table as a CSV file. Then we created tables in Hive to store the data. Then we loaded the data, the CSV files, into Hive tables. So here is Ubuntu on VirtualBox. We already installed Hadoop and Hive, so we can run Hadoop command. We can take a look at the directories in Hadoop file system using hdfs command. We have two directories now, temp and user, and we can access Hive using Hive command, which will bring us a command line interface for Hive, where we can create tables and load data and perform Hive operations. So here is Hive command line. So now we need to export our database tables as CSV files. Then we load these CSV files into Hive tables. We already transferred all tables into Hive except one, which is the star data. We will transfer this table now to show how the operation works. So we export the table as CSV file. Okay, CSV file. We choose the separator to be a comma. Then we export the file. This table is large. This will take a while, so we will wait until it finishes. So it's about to finish. Now the export is successful. What we need to do now is we should put this file into a shared folder shared between this operating system and Ubuntu. And now we can go to Ubuntu, open the shared folder, and here is our file, our CSV file. So we will copy the file and put it in the downloads folder. And now we will create a Hive table to store the data. We already created tables and loaded the data for all other MySQL tables. Now this one, we copy the command. Hive syntax is similar to SQL syntax. Here we create the table. Here is the table name. Here are the fields. Okay, we copy the command and go to terminal. We are inside Hive now, so we paste the command and execute it. So now we successfully created the table. Now we need to load the CSV file into this table. So we use this command. This command will load the data in this CSV file into this Hive table. So we will copy the command and go to terminal and paste the command. So now our data is loaded in the table, and we already loaded all other tables. So now we have all our MySQL tables transferred into Hive. Now we can execute some Hive commands to take a look at the tables. So for example, let's see some data from the table that we just transferred. So from but we will get only 5 rows. Here we can see the data from Hive table. We can try other table, for example the quarter report table. quarter reports table. We will also limit the results to 5 rows. That's enough. Sorry, the table named quarterly reports. So here we can see the data. So we just showed how we transferred data from MySQL database into Hive tables. Thank you, Dr. Te, for taking time to watch this video.